Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys about the one supplement that if I step back and look at it is probably, I don't even think probably, I would say definitely the biggest supplement scam in the last decade. And what's interesting is that I personally got caught right in the middle of this whole thing because you guys remember, and I didn't understand what I was involved in at the time. If you guys remember when I had called Lane Norton out and had said that his research was financially biased. And you guys want to know the truth? I was just repeating what I'd heard other PhDs say. I was just repeating what I had heard and what made sense. At that time, it had never occurred to me that BCAAs actually didn't work, that they didn't do anything, that they were completely useless. I didn't actually know that at the time. I stumbled upon that, and I think in retrospect, I think that all these companies involved in it knew that these products were completely useless. They knew, Norton knew, Civation knew, and I think that's the reason I got hit and attacked so hard financially, socially, everything else for all of that. Like, I really and truly didn't understand the level of response that I got. It baffled me until years later. It really baffled me. It's because they couldn't have someone out there with a voice and outreach suggesting that this multi-million-dollar product, that Civation was making millions and millions off this product, off branched chain aminos. They couldn't have someone suggest they didn't work. But the truth is, I didn't actually know that at the time. It was just sheer dumb luck that I fell into that. I really and truly didn't understand that. And when we look at all of this, look at how far spread branched chain amino acids went as far as people promoting them. Tons of people that I know who I like were advocating them. Tons of coaches. I mean, I've seen Paul Carter advocate them. Again, respected coach. I like Paul Carter. We saw Martin Burkham suggesting them for intermittent fasting. We've seen a couple years back even Mark Ripito saying that Jordan Feigenbaum, his main nutrition advisor with Starting Strength, had convinced him they were probably a good idea. My friend Alex Viada suggested that for athletes training multiple times a day, they were a good idea. Eric Helms was saying they were a good idea, and he's got a PhD in nutrition, and he really specialized in body composition and dieting and retaining muscle mass when losing body fat, and protein intake was really what he did his doctoral work in. I mean, these are all people who we would consider to be authorities. We would consider them to be authorities. Everybody advocated them. Literally everybody. The majority of coaches and experts were saying if you lift weights, particularly if you do cardio and lift weights, you probably would benefit from branched chain amino acids pre-workout, intra-workout, maybe post-workout. Everyone bought in. Everyone did. And that's why I'm saying this is the biggest scam. It's not because it was wool pulled over people's eyes. It's because people really didn't know. There was just enough initially biased research kicked out to suggest that these products were useful. And guys like Norton and Civation were right at the core of that. They weren't the only ones, mind you, but they were at the core of that. And it went everywhere. Everyone was recommending it, every YouTube channel. Then we fast forward to 2017. What happened? The first meta-analysis ever done. And people say, well, can you link that? No, guys, YouTube doesn't like me to link studies. Apparently, I'm tired of fighting with them over it. But if you guys go to Google, which is a product linked to YouTube, Google owns YouTube, so YouTube won't be too upset by that. Go to Google, type in BCAA meta-analysis, and you will be able to find multiple links to it. Read the meta-analysis yourself. And for those unfamiliar with that, meta-analysis is usually considered to be the highest set of evidence that you have on any scientific category, any subject. And the reason meta-analysis is the highest category is because you have a group of independent researchers pull every relevant study on a topic and compare and cross-compare and look at the weight of each study and see how they stack up against each other if there's enough studies to do a meta-analysis. You don't do it with 3 or 4 studies. When you get a dozen or more or 2 dozen or 50, you can look at those studies and find the trend. So in other words, if you only have 2 or 3 studies to back your point and someone cranks out a meta-analysis that disagrees with you, you default go to the meta-analysis. It is considered to be superior to someone who just has 2 or 3 studies. It's dramatically superior. You win, basically. You win that argument. So we had a meta-analysis come out, and what did it show? It said that branched chain amino acids, when taken by themselves, is not part of a larger protein matrix. In other words, branched chain amino acids are already in every protein you eat. Whey protein is 25% branched chain amino acids. When they're left in the intact environment of all the other essential amino acids with them in certain ratios, they have a positive response on anabolic drive in the body. When they are taking in isolation from a more complete protein source, they do nothing beneficial. They don't cause an increase in muscle protein synthesis. They do not cause an anabolic response. They do not even help fight off catabolism. In fact, that's just when done orally. And some of the studies, when they gave them an IV form to where they loaded branched chain amino acids directly into people's bloodstream with an IV, the data implied the possibility that it could actually even blunt muscle growth. In other words, extreme concentration of branched chain amino acids could hypothetically reduce the amount of muscle you gain from lifting weights. That was the worst case scenario. The best case scenario, they did absolutely nothing other than drain your pocketbook. And then Alan Aragon, just the other day, I saw him linking a study showing they've done a separate study to show that if branched chain amino acids even help preserve muscle when you're dieting or fasting, they don't help there either. And look at that. Look how big intermittent fasting got pushed, which has its own set of data coming out now. Intermittent fasting got pushed, and the whole idea with branched chain amino acids there, and hundreds and hundreds of coaches pushed this, and nutritionists, that taking the branched chain amino acids during your fasted window could help stave off muscle protein breakdown. It turns out it doesn't. It doesn't help at all. It doesn't help in any way when you're fasted. It doesn't help in any way when you're in a caloric deficit and reducing muscle tissue breakdown or muscle loss. It doesn't help outside of being inside of more protein. In other words, more protein helps. The branched chain amino acids don't. They're about as effective as table sugar for doing this, which table sugar has some mild effects. So in other words, this product doesn't help us in any meaningful way. It doesn't help us, but it is one of the most widely used and pushed substances of the last 5 to 8 years. As far as supplements go, it reached almost the level that creatine reached. Creatine has become the one universal muscle building supplement. It is the one most universally pushed. Branched chain amino acids reached a point of almost where creatine did. Everyone promoted it. Just imagine what would happen if a meta-analysis came out right now where they looked at the studies and concluded that creatine doesn't help with muscle growth. Imagine if that happened. Well, that's what happened with branched chain amino acids. And yet it got pushed industry-wide. And I don't just mean people being paid for it. There were people out there who had no financial connection to any brand of branched chain aminos who were pimping them and promoting them. There were coaches out there who were using them themselves and having their clients use them based upon these recommendations of the industry, who weren't making any money off of it at all. They were taking them personally. Everyone got conned. Everyone got conned. And you know what? This all started with Scivation, didn't it? Remember Lobliner always saying that back when he started Scivation, that he was responsible for getting branched chain amino acids pushed out, that he promoted them, that he did that. He said all of that, and he was so proud of that fact. Wonder how he feels about that now. Now that it's turned out they don't actually work. You know what? I bet he doesn't feel anything at all. He made his money. But I think we can fairly say, based upon how widespread it was and that it turns out that they are completely useless, a complete waste of money based upon the available scientific literature, that, yeah, branched chain amino acids were the biggest supplement hustle of the decade. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.